Chapter 7. Capital and Surplus Value. The basic economic law of capitalism, the basis of production relations in the capitalist system. Capitalist production arises. Large-scale industry replaces handcrafts, leading to factories and mechanized agriculture. Capitalist ownership is key. Capitalists own the means of production, factories, land, etc., while workers only own their labor. Wage labor is the foundation. Workers, free from serfdom but lacking means of production, must sell their labor to capitalists. Exploitation is central. The bourgeoisie capitalists exploit the proletariat workers. This is the core class conflict under capitalism. Pre-capitalist forms persist. Pure capitalism is an abstraction. Landlords and small-scale producers still exist, but are subordinate to capitalist relations. Two stages of capitalism. Capitalism evolves from a pre-monopoly stage to a monopoly stage, each with distinct characteristics. Transformation of money into capital starts as money, but not all money is capital. Money used for exchange in simple commodity production, CMC, is not capital. It becomes capital when used to generate profit, MCM. Capital seeks to increase value. The goal of capitalist production is not just to exchange goods, but to increase the initial investment of money, MM. Profit doesn't arise from circulation. Exchanging goods at equal value doesn't create new value, so profit can't come from circulation alone. Labor power is the source of profit. Capitalists buy a unique commodity, labor power, which has the capacity to create more value than it costs. This is the origin of surplus value and profit. Labor power as a commodity. Value and use value of the commodity labor power becomes a commodity under capitalism. While labor is needed in all societies, only under capitalism is it bought and sold as a commodity. Value of labor power. The value of labor power is determined by the cost of the necessities required to maintain and reproduce the worker and their family. This includes basic needs like food and shelter, as well as culturally determined needs like education. Surplus value. Workers produce more value during their workday than the value of their labor power. This excess value is called surplus value, and it is the source of capitalist profit. Exploitation. Capitalists exploit workers by paying them the value of their labor power, but then extracting more labor from them than is necessary to cover that cost. This allows capitalists to accumulate profit. Historical and social factors. The value of labor power varies depending on historical context, social conditions, and the level of development of a given country. The production of surplus value. Basic economic law of capitalism, surplus value, is key to capitalist exploitation. The difference between the value of labor power and the value created by labor is surplus value, which capitalists appropriate without payment. Two parts of the workday. The workday is divided into necessary labor, producing the value of labor power, and surplus labor, producing surplus value for the capitalist. Capitalist control. Workers labor under capitalist control, and the product of their labor belongs to the capitalist. Massed exploitation. The wage labor system appears as a fair exchange, but it hides the reality of unpaid labor and exploitation. Wage slavery. Workers are dependent on capitalists for their livelihood and are essentially bound to them, despite being legally free. Source of capitalist income. Surplus value is the source of all capitalist profits and unearned income. Basic economic law of capitalism. The pursuit of ever-increasing surplus value drives capitalist production and exploitation. Wolf-like greed. Capitalists relentlessly seek to maximize surplus value, leading to constant pressure to increase productivity and exploit workers. Driving force of development. The pursuit of surplus value, while exploitative, also drives technological advancement under capitalism. A weapon for the working class. Marx's theory of surplus value exposes the true nature of capitalism and provides a theoretical basis for working class struggle. Capital as a social relation of production. Constant and variable capital is not just any tool. Bourgeois economists wrongly define capital as any means of production, obscuring its role in exploitation. True capital is means of production used to exploit wage labor. Capital is a social relation. Capital is not a thing, but a historically specific social relationship between capitalists and workers. Exploitation is at its core. Capital is value used to extract surplus value from workers, dead labor-sucking living labor. Fetishism of capital. The exploitative nature of capital is hidden, making it seem like profit arises from the means of production themselves. Constant and variable capital. Constant capital. See the value of means of production, tools, raw materials, etc., that is transferred to the final product. Variable capital, v. the value spent on wages, which expands due to the creation of surplus value. Variable capital is key to exploitation. The division of capital into C and V highlights the unique role of labor power in generating profit. Dual nature of labor. Labor both transfers existing value from means of production and creates new value. This distinction is crucial for understanding how surplus value arises. The rate of surplus value measures exploitation. This rate, SV, shows the proportion of a worker's labor that goes towards necessary labor, covering the cost of their labor power, versus surplus labor, creating profit for the capitalist. Calculating the rate. It's calculated by dividing surplus value, S, by variable capital, V, expressed as a percentage. Example, if S equals $6 and V equals $6, the rate of surplus value is 100%, meaning the worker spends half their time producing value for themselves and half for the capitalist. Increasing exploitation. As capitalism develops, the rate of surplus value tends to increase, reflecting a higher degree of worker exploitation. Massive surplus value also grows. The total amount of surplus value extracted increases as more workers are employed by capital. Lenin's analysis. Lenin's research on pre-revolutionary Russia showed that workers labored more than half their day for the capitalist, illustrating the high level of exploitation. Two ways of increasing the degree of exploitation of labor by capital. Absolute and relative surplus value. Two ways to increase surplus value. Capitalists aim to maximize surplus value by absolute surplus value, lengthening the working day while keeping necessary labor time constant. This was common in early capitalism. Relative surplus value, increasing productivity, which reduces the necessary labor time and increases surplus labor time within the same workday. This became dominant with the rise of machine industry. Example, a 12-hour workday with 6 hours necessary labor and 6 hours surplus labor. Absolute surplus value, extending the workday to 14 hours with 6 hours necessary and 8 hours surplus. Relative surplus value, keeping the 12-hour workday but increasing productivity, reducing necessary labor to 4 hours and increasing surplus labor to 8 hours. Historical shift. Early capitalism relied more on absolute surplus value, longer workdays. As technology advanced, relative surplus value, increased productivity, became more important. Intensification of labor. Capitalists also increase exploitation by intensifying labor, effectively extracting more work within the same time frame. This has similar effects to lengthening the workday. Extra surplus value explained. This is surplus value above the average rate, achieved by capitalists who introduce new technology before their competitors. This lowers their production costs and allows them to sell at the market price while pocketing the difference. Example, a worker produces 1,000 cigarettes per hour. A new machine doubles productivity to 2,000 cigarettes per hour. The worker still works 12 hours, but now produces 24,000 cigarettes. The necessary labor time is cut in half, while surplus labor time increases, leading to a much higher rate of surplus value. Temporary advantage. Extra surplus value is temporary. As competitors adopt the new technology, the social value of the commodity falls, and the extra profit disappears. Driving force of innovation. The pursuit of extra surplus value pushes capitalists to innovate, leading to the development of productive forces. Contradictions of capitalist development. Capitalists only innovate if it increases profit, not necessarily for the benefit of society. Technological progress often comes at the expense of workers, through increased exploitation, longer hours, and intensified labor. Capitalism limits the full potential of productive forces due to competition and the pursuit of individual profit. The working day and its limits. The struggle to shorten the working day. Capitalists push for the longest possible workday. Driven by the desire for surplus value, capitalists would exploit workers for 24 hours a day if possible. Limits to the workday. Physical limits. Workers need time to rest, eat, and recover. Moral limits. Workers need time for social and cultural needs. Capital's disregard for limits. Capital often ignores both physical and moral limits, leading to health problems and increased mortality among workers. Historical shift in worker exploitation. Early capitalism. Shortage of labor led to legal measures, factory acts, to extend the workday. With industrialization, abundant labor allowed capitalists to economically compel longer workdays. Worker struggles for shorter hours. Workers fought for shorter workdays, leading to legislation like the Factory Acts in Britain. The 8-hour workday became a key demand of the working class, championed by labor movements and the First International. Mixed results. While the 8-hour day was achieved in many countries, capitalists often compensated by intensifying labor. Long workdays and harsh conditions persist in some sectors and countries, particularly in the arms industry and in colonial-dependent countries. Class structure of capitalist society. The bourgeois state simplified class struggle. Capitalism simplifies social structures compared to feudalism, leading to two main opposing classes, the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. Bourgeoisie, the ruling class who own the means of production and exploit workers. Proletariat, the working class who own only their labor power and must sell it to capitalists to survive. They are the most revolutionary class due to their economic position. Other classes, landlords and peasants, exist as remnants of the feudal system, but their roles are shaped by capitalist relations. Peasants are largely exploited and driven to ruin. Bourgeois state serves the capitalists. The state protects capitalist property, guarantees exploitation, and suppresses working class resistance. Above class facade. The bourgeoisie portrays the state as neutral and democratic, masking its role in upholding capitalist interests. State apparatus of coercion. The state uses police, military, courts, prisons, and other tools to maintain control. Ideological control. The bourgeoisie also uses media, religion, and education to reinforce its dominance. Forms of bourgeois states vary, but the essence is the same. All are dictatorships of the bourgeoisie, focused on protecting and strengthening capitalist exploitation. Proletariat's role. As the proletariat grows and becomes more conscious of its interests, it organizes to fight against capitalist exploitation. The industrial proletariat, due to its position in large-scale production, is the most revolutionary force and can unite other exploited groups to overthrow capitalism.